I'm Paul Kensington, and for the last 12 years, I've been the invisible architect behind the digital walls that protect America's most classified operations. At 41, I've written security protocols that most people will never know exist, safeguarding systems they'll never see. My masterpiece, Sentinel Array, operates silently across 9 federal agencies, including the Department of Defense and the CIA. It's the silent guardian that keeps our nation's deepest secrets locked away from those who would exploit them. I never wanted recognition. No conference stages, no industry awards, no magazine profiles. My reward comes from knowing that every denied access attempt, every thwarted breach, every encrypted transmission happens because of the architecture I designed. In federal cybersecurity, invisibility is power. The morning of November 14th started like any other. I arrived at Apex Digital Solutions headquarters at 6:15, badge clipped to my belt, travel mug in hand. The glass tower in Crystal City reflected the dawn light, standing as a monument to government contracting success. I had designed the access control systems for this building myself, though the brass nameplates in the lobby mentioned other names. The elevator carried me to the 23rd floor in familiar silence. Early mornings belonged to me, those precious hours before the sales staff and program managers filled the hallways with their enthusiasm. My team understood this unspoken rule. Between 6 and 8, I reviewed system logs, analyzed threat patterns, and refined defensive algorithms without interruption. But something felt wrong immediately. Jennifer from Human Resources wouldn't meet my eyes as I passed her station. Robert from Logistics actually turned away when he saw me approaching. These were people I'd worked alongside for years, and suddenly I'd become a ghost they couldn't acknowledge. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. And let me know your thoughts on today's one in the comments. I read every message. The mandatory all-hands meeting notification had arrived at 11 the previous night. CEO Amanda Vance had been scheduling these weekly since taking the helm 4 months ago, fresh from running a fintech startup in San Francisco. She spoke in buzzwords about disruption and agility, concepts that made sense in consumer apps but felt dangerously naive when applied to classified government systems. I settled into my office and pulled up the overnight reports. Sentinel Array had identified and neutralized 23 intrusion attempts across various networks. Routine activity, mostly automated probes testing perimeter defenses they'd never penetrate. I documented the patterns, adjusted response thresholds, and sent status updates to my Pentagon liaison. General Frank Aldridge responded within seconds. "Another quiet night. Your work keeps us safe, Paul. Lunch next week?" I smiled at the screen. Frank understood what Sentinel meant for national defense in ways Amanda Vance never could, despite her MBA and her motivational speeches. At 8:40, I headed toward the main conference room. Conversations died as I walked past. The energy felt wrong, charged with anticipation and discomfort. The conference room was packed, Amanda holding court at the front in a crimson blazer, gesturing dramatically to her recently hired executive team. I took my usual position near the middle left, notebook open, pen ready. Around me, the technical staff settled in, the people who actually delivered on our government contracts and maintained relationships with federal clients. We understood that in our business, innovation meant increasing security, not chasing trends. Amanda called the meeting to order with rehearsed energy. "Good morning, Apex family." Her voice carried forced warmth. We weren't family. We were professionals executing critical work. Today represents a pivotal moment in our transformation journey, she continued, advancing to a slide covered in corporate jargon arranged in overlapping circles. We're not just updating our business model, we're revolutionizing how we approach federal contracting. I caught David from Infrastructure's eye. His skepticism matched mine. Federal clients didn't want revolution. They wanted reliability, security, and systems that functioned flawlessly under pressure. As part of this transformation, Amanda said, her tone hardening, we need to confront uncomfortable truths about organizational structure. We've become comfortable with legacy thinking when we need digital-first innovation. The slide changed to show an organizational chart with positions highlighted in red. Mine was among them. Our technical leadership reflects outdated hierarchies, she continued. We have engineers stuck in management roles when we need adaptive cross-functional teams. It's time to streamline, to bring fresh perspectives, to build tomorrow's apex. My secure phone vibrated, a message from the Pentagon. Critical briefing tomorrow, 1400 hours. Confirm attendance immediately. I confirmed quickly, keeping my expression neutral as murmurs spread through the room. Amanda's transformation was about to claim casualties. I want to address one example directly, Amanda said, and I knew instinctively she meant me. Paul Kensington. Every head swiveled toward me. I maintained calm composure, hands resting quietly on my notebook. Paul represents what's holding us back, she announced. Brilliant? Undoubtedly. Committed? Absolutely. But trapped in patterns that no longer serve our mission. The role of Chief Security Architect, as currently structured, is obsolete. We need fluid teams, not rigid hierarchies. She reached into her blazer and produced my security badge. I hadn't even noticed its absence from my desk. Effective immediately, we're restructuring our entire technical organization. Some positions will be eliminated, others reimagined, and yes, some people will need to seek opportunities elsewhere. She held my badge like a trophy, then fed it into a portable shredder positioned on the podium. The grinding sound filled the silent room as 12 years of dedication became plastic fragments. Paul, she said, smiling without warmth, we appreciate your contributions. Human Resources will contact you about separation arrangements. The room held its breath. Everyone waited to see my reaction, perhaps expecting anger or distress that would validate her power display. I stood slowly, gathering my notebook and pen. I understand, I said simply. My phone buzzed again. General Aldridge. Sentinel showing unusual authentication patterns. Status? I typed back. Primary architect no longer authorized. System entering protective protocols as designed. His response came instantly. Explain at tomorrow's briefing. I walked toward the exit, my footsteps the only sound in the frozen room. At the door, I turned back, addressing everyone except Amanda. For those remaining, I said quietly, the documentation is accessible through standard channels. Follow every protocol exactly as written. Any deviation will trigger defensive measures beyond your clearance level. David's face had gone pale. He understood the implications. So did most senior engineers. Sentinel Array wasn't just software, it was an adaptive system that learned patterns, recognized authorized users, and protected its own integrity. It knew my biometric signatures, my behavioral patterns, my presence in ways that transcended simple badge access. Thank you, Paul, Amanda interrupted. Our team will handle any technical challenges. I met her eyes directly. I'm sure you believe that. I left her standing there, walked past colleagues who didn't understand what they'd witnessed, and rode the elevator down in silence. In my car, I opened an app that looked like a weather forecast but was actually my direct interface to Sentinel's core systems. The system was already responding to my absence, activating protocols I'd written years ago but never expected would deploy. Authentication requirements were escalating across all installations. Nothing catastrophic yet, just enough friction to slow operations and demand additional verification. I drove home through familiar Virginia suburbs, my mind already calculating consequences. Amanda thought she'd removed an obstacle. She'd actually triggered a failsafe she didn't know existed. By the time I reached my driveway, the first effects were manifesting. Sentinel's authentication systems had registered my badge destruction as a potential security breach and begun restricting access, requiring enhanced verification for routine operations. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Thomas Wright, Apex's head of operations and one of few people who truly understood Sentinel's capabilities. Paul? His voice was tight with controlled panic. What's happening? The system is demanding level 6 authentication for everything. We can't access basic monitoring tools. The system is protecting itself from unauthorized access, I explained calmly. You understand the protocols, Thomas. Paul, please. We have federal contracts requiring continuous oversight. If we can't maintain system integrity, then I suggest following documented procedures exactly. Every authentication requirement, every security measure. The system will recognize legitimate maintenance efforts. The documentation requires clearances only you possess. I paused at my front door. Then you have a significant problem, Thomas. I need to go. I have a Pentagon briefing tomorrow. I'm sure they'll want to discuss Apex's new security management approach. Inside my house, I went directly to my study. 3 leather-bound notebooks sat on my desk, filled with handwritten algorithms, logic diagrams, and security protocols that existed nowhere else. The true foundation of Sentinel Array wasn't in any database. It was here, in these pages, in the mathematical proofs that governed how the system defended itself. I made coffee and opened the first notebook. Page 1 contained the fundamental principle. A security system incapable of self-protection is not secure. Everything I'd built followed from this axiom. Sentinel Array didn't just defend against external threats, it monitored its own integrity, tracked authorized administrators, and responded to any compromise attempt. My sudden removal from the system, combined with my badge destruction, had triggered exactly the response I had designed. My laptop chimed with incoming messages, all marked urgent. I ignored them and opened my personal monitoring interface. Sentinel's activity was spiking across all federal installations. It wasn't malfunctioning. It was being extraordinarily careful, demanding additional verification for every access attempt, ensuring no unauthorized modifications could occur. Another message arrived, this one through encrypted channels. The sender showed only FA, but I recognized General Aldridge's secure protocol. Severe performance degradation across all Sentinel-protected networks. Briefing moved to 0900 tomorrow. Car will collect you at 0800. This is now Priority Alpha. Priority Alpha meant immediate threat to national security. Amanda had no conception of what she'd triggered. I spent the evening organizing my notebooks, preparing for tomorrow's Pentagon briefing. These books were my personal property, never part of my employment agreement. They contained not just code, but the philosophy behind Sentinel, the mathematical principles that made it nearly impossible to compromise. As darkness fell, I received a text from David. Emergency response team assembled. Amanda brought in outside consultants. They're attempting system override. I replied, advise extreme caution. Sentinel has opinions about brute force approaches. His response, already? Locked them out after 2 attempts. Now demanding biometric verification, including retinal patterns, voice print analysis, and keystroke cadence. We don't have that data for external consultants. Only authorized personnel at registered terminals, I confirmed. Amanda relocated everyone to the conference room for collaborative problem solving. I shook my head. Every decision they made was wrong, driven by panic rather than understanding. Sentinel was designed for maintenance, not conquest. It cooperated with trusted administrators and resisted everyone else. My secure line rang. Deputy Secretary of Defense Patricia Ellis. Mr. Kensington. Her voice was measured but concerned. I'm verifying your current employment status with Apex Digital Solutions. As of approximately 9:20 this morning, I'm no longer employed by Apex. A pause. And Sentinel Array is functioning as designed? Precisely as designed. It's protecting itself and the infrastructure it guards until proper. Maintenance protocols can be restored. Mr. Kensington, I need clarity. Are you suggesting a critical defense system is now operating autonomously? No, Deputy Secretary. I'm stating that Sentinel is following documented security protocols in response to what it perceives as a potential compromise. It will continue functioning, but it will be extremely selective about administrator access. How selective? Imagine a maximum security facility entering lockdown. Life support continues, but nobody enters or exits without proper authorization. Another pause, longer this time. Tomorrow's briefing, can you restore normal operations? That depends entirely on what Apex permits. I no longer have legal access to their systems. I see. Thank you, Mr. Kensington. We'll see you tomorrow morning. The call ended, but I knew it was just beginning. Somewhere in Washington, emergency meetings were convening. People were beginning to understand that you can't simply terminate the architect of systems protecting national security. I ate a simple dinner, reviewed my notes one final time, and went to bed early. Tomorrow would be demanding. At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. System rejected Amanda's override codes. She's threatening legal action against you for sabotage. I typed back, "Good luck proving I've done anything. I haven't touched a keyboard since leaving the building." She doesn't understand. She thinks you installed a kill switch. I installed a security system that trusts certain people. She removed one of those trusted people. This is the natural result. Paul, jobs are at stake here. Then perhaps they should have considered that before destroying my badge in front of everyone. I set the phone aside. In a few hours, a government vehicle would arrive, and I'd explain to very powerful people why their critical security infrastructure had suddenly become particular about who could access it. Amanda wanted transformation. She was about to learn that some systems transform back. The black sedan arrived precisely at 8. The driver, a young Air Force lieutenant, nodded respectfully as I entered. We didn't speak during the drive, but I noticed her checking mirrors more frequently than normal traffic required. We bypassed standard Pentagon entrances, heading instead to a secure facility I'd visited only once before. Security procedures were extensive: biometric scans, background verification, even chemical analysis of my briefcase contents. They photographed every page of my notebooks before returning them. General Aldridge met me in a windowless conference room 4 floors underground. He looked exhausted, and I noticed he'd missed a patch shaving. "Paul," he gestured to a chair. "Thank you for coming." "Frank? Long night?" "You have no idea. Sentinel started rejecting routine maintenance at 2300 hours. By midnight, we had alerts from every installation running your system." "It's not rejecting maintenance. It's requiring proper authorization." "Authorization from someone who no longer works for the primary contractor." His tone remained neutral. "You can see how that creates complications." The door opened. Deputy Secretary Ellis entered, followed by 2 men whose bearing suggested intelligence community. They took seats across from me, tablets and secure phones ready. "Mr. Kensington," Ellis began without preamble, 17 federal agencies rely on Sentinel for critical security functions. As of this morning, all 17 are experiencing significant operational issues. Can you resolve this? That depends on your definition of resolve. The system is operating correctly, protecting itself and the infrastructure it guards from perceived unauthorized access. One of the unnamed men leaned forward. "You designed it to lock out your own company." "I designed it to recognize and trust specific behavioral patterns, biometric signatures, and operational procedures. When those patterns change suddenly and dramatically, such as when a primary architect's access is terminated abruptly, the system responds defensively." "So this was intentional," he pressed, "a dead man's switch." I met his gaze steadily. "Everything about Sentinel is intentional. Every line of code, every security protocol, every response pattern. It's not a dead man's switch. It's a living system protecting itself." Ellis raised a hand, stopping the interrogation. "Mr. Kensington, we need solutions. What are our options?" I opened my briefcase and removed the first notebook. Option 1. Apex follows documented procedures for security transition. This requires a 90-day handover where I train replacements, gradually transferring biometric authorizations and behavioral patterns. The system will accept new administrators once confident they understand its requirements. "Amanda Vance seems to have eliminated that option," Aldrich observed dryly. "Option 2, I continued, Apex, authorizes me as external consultant to manage the transition. I maintain temporary access while training their team. This requires significant oversight to ensure I don't exceed authorized parameters." "And if Vance refuses both options?" Ellis asked. I closed the notebook. "Then you have option 3. The federal government exercises emergency procurement authority, assumes direct control of Sentinel, and builds a new management structure." The room fell silent. Option 3's implications were staggering: billions in contract disputes, legal challenges, complete restructuring of federal cybersecurity management. "There might be a 4th option," I said quietly. "If you're interested." Ellis leaned back. "Continue." Sentinel was always bigger than Apex. The company was just the development vehicle. What if we formalize that separation? Create an independent entity responsible for critical infrastructure security, transfer Sentinel and related systems to this new organization. Staff it with people who understand that security isn't about disruption, it's about vigilance. The unnamed men exchanged glances. One stepped out, made a phone call, returned, and nodded to Ellis. "Tell us more about this entity," Ellis said. For the next 2 hours, I outlined a vision I'd been developing since Amanda shredded my badge, an organization existing at the intersection of public service and private expertise, funded by government but operating independently, staffed by the best security minds regardless of their age or adherence to startup culture. "What would you call it?" Aldridge asked. "Sentry Corps, strategic entity for national technology and resilient critical operations." Ellis made notes. "And you would lead this organization?" If asked, yes. More importantly, I'd ensure Sentinel and successor systems are managed by people who understand them, people who recognize that in our field, boring is good. Boring means the system works. Boring means nobody's breaking in. The unnamed man who'd made the call spoke for the first time in 90 minutes. "We've been exploring similar concepts at the National Security Council. Recent private sector events have highlighted risks of outsourcing critical infrastructure to companies prioritizing profit over security." My phone buzzed. A text from David. "Amanda just fired Thomas for insubordination. She's bringing in people from her previous company to modernize security infrastructure." I showed the message to the room. Ellis's expression hardened. "How long before Sentinel completely locks them out?" she asked. "At their current pace, 36 hours, maybe less. The system increases security requirements exponentially in response to repeated unauthorized access attempts. Eventually, it will only accept input from terminals it absolutely trusts, using protocols that can't be spoofed. And then? Then it runs in maintenance mode indefinitely. It will continue protecting federal systems, blocking intrusions, maintaining security, but it won't accept updates, won't adapt to new threats, won't evolve. It becomes slowly obsolete while remaining impossible to replace." Aldridge stood. "I need to brief the secretary. Patricia, I recommend emergency procedures immediately." Ellis nodded. "Mr. Kensington, are you willing to help stabilize the situation while we work through legal frameworks for your proposal?" "Under what authority? I'm no longer employed. I'm prepared to offer you a direct appointment as technical advisor to the Department of Defense, effective immediately. It would give you legal standing to access Sentinel while we address larger issues." I considered carefully. "I'll need specific guarantees, including protection from any legal action Apex might pursue." "Our legal team is standing by," Ellis assured me. The next several hours blurred together. Paperwork, clearances, technical briefings. By noon, I had a new badge, this one issued by DoD rather than a contractor. By 2, I was in a secure facility, logged into Sentinel for the first time since my termination. The system recognized me instantly. Authentication protocols that had been tightening relaxed, status indicators shifted from yellow and red back to green, like watching a guard dog recognize its owner after tense standoff. "Hello, old friend," I murmured, reviewing logs from the past day. What I saw was disturbing. Amanda's team had tried everything: brute force attacks, injection attempts, even physical bypass efforts. Each attempt made Sentinel more defensive, more protective. They were teaching it that Apex could no longer be trusted. My phone rang. Amanda Vance. "Mr. Kensington," her voice was cold, "I understand you're interfering with Apex operations." "I'm performing authorized maintenance on federal systems at the Department of Defense's request. Those systems are managed under our contracts. Any access without our permission is violation." "Ms. Vance," I interrupted, "I suggest your legal team review Section 17.4 of your federal contracts. It specifically allows emergency government intervention when contractor actions threaten system integrity." "Your actions? You're the one who sabotaged." "I did nothing. I was terminated. The system responded to that termination according to documented protocols. If you'd read those protocols, you would have known this would happen. This is extortion, corporate sabotage. I'll have you. You're welcome to try. Meanwhile, I have work to do. Good day, Ms. Vance." I ended the call and returned to my screens. Sentinel needed reassurance, careful coaxing to accept temporary measures. I began implementing transition protocols that would allow cleared personnel to maintain basic operations while keeping Amanda's team locked out. David appeared on my secure messenger. "Paul, thank God. Amanda's losing control. She announced anyone communicating with you will be terminated." "Then why are you messaging me?" "Because I just resigned, along with 7 other senior engineers. We're not staying for whatever comes next." I paused in my work. "David, don't make rash decisions because of me. It's not about you. It's about what she represents. We've spent years building something meaningful, and she wants to turn it into just another tech company. Move fast and break things doesn't work when the things you break protect national security." He was right. Amanda's Silicon Valley mentality was incompatible with patient, careful infrastructure security work. She saw Sentinel as legacy code to be disrupted rather than a carefully balanced system that took years to perfect. "There might be opportunities soon," I told him. "Keep your clearance active." "You're planning something. The government is exploring options, that's all I can say." By evening, I'd stabilized major systems. Sentinel was still cautious, still protective, but no longer actively hostile to all access attempts. I documented everything, creating clear evidence that the system's behavior resulted directly from Apex's actions, not any sabotage. Aldridge appeared as I finished. "How bad?" "I've bought us time. Maybe 2 weeks before the restrictions I've implemented start causing problems. We need permanent solutions before then." "Ellis is fast-tracking your proposal. She has support from the Secretary and preliminary White House approval. They want Sentry Corps operational within 30 days. "That's impossible." "That's what I told them. They said you've done impossible before." I laughed, short and bitter. "Building Sentinel took 4 years. You're not building from scratch. You're transferring existing infrastructure to new management. Different challenge." He was right. The technical pieces existed. What we needed was organizational framework, legal authority, and most importantly, the right people. "I'll need my core team," I said. "The ones who actually understand the system. Make a list, we'll make offers they can't refuse." 2 weeks later, Sentry Corps was operational. We'd assumed control of Sentinel and 8 other critical systems, established protocols for working with private contractors, and begun developing next-generation security infrastructure. The formal transition ceremony was held in a Pentagon conference room. No media, just the people who mattered: government officials, military leadership, contractors who'd agreed to work within the new framework. Amanda attended, sitting quietly in back. She'd survived her board's wrath, implemented necessary reforms to maintain Apex's other contracts, and learned valuable lessons about respecting systems that really mattered. After the ceremony, she approached me. "Congratulations, Paul. You've built something remarkable. We've built a foundation. The real work is maintaining it. I wanted you to know, I've hired a new chief security officer, someone who understands that boring is good, as you put it. We're also implementing mandatory technical education for all executives. Never again will management make decisions about systems they don't understand." "That's a start." She extended her hand. "I hope Sentry Corps and Apex can work together productively." I shook it. "As long as you remember that some things shouldn't be disrupted." Lesson learned. Painfully, but learned. 6 months later, Sentry Corps had grown to 42 employees and secured oversight of 19 critical systems. We'd prevented 6 major intrusion attempts, identified countless vulnerabilities, and established ourselves as the gold standard for infrastructure security. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant knocked. "Mr. Kensington, there's someone here. Says her name is Amanda Vance." I looked up, surprised. We'd had minimal contact since the transition. "Send her in." Amanda entered looking different. Gone was the corporate power suit. She wore practical clothes, her demeanor more subdued. "Paul, thank you for seeing me. What can I do for you, Amanda?" "I'm stepping down as CEO of Apex. The board and I agreed it was time for new leadership." I was genuinely surprised. She'd learned from mistakes, implemented real changes. "I'm starting a new venture," she continued. focusing on cybersecurity education for executives, teaching business leaders why they should respect the boring systems that keep everything running. It was unexpected, but logical. "I'd like Sentry Corps to be a partner," she said. "Guest lectures, case studies, maybe internship programs, show future executives what real security work looks like." It was intriguing. Educational outreach was part of our mandate. "Send me a formal proposal. We'll consider it." "I will." "And Paul, I wanted to apologize properly. What I did, the public humiliation, the arrogance, it was wrong. We all make mistakes, Amanda. What matters is what we do after." She stood to leave, pausing at the door. "When I shredded your badge, I thought I was demonstrating strength. But real strength was what you did, protecting the systems even after being dismissed. That's the lesson I want to teach." After she left, I returned to my reports. 6 months ago, I'd been an anonymous engineer protecting systems in shadows. Now I ran an organization safeguarding national security, had testified before Congress, become the public face of infrastructure defense. But at the core, nothing had changed. Every morning I reviewed logs. Every evening I checked status indicators, green lights across the board, systems humming quietly, threats identified and neutralized before causing harm. Boring work, essential work, my work. The phone rang. Another crisis somewhere. Another system needing protection. I answered with familiar words. "Sentry Corps, Kensington speaking. How can we help?" Because that's what we did. We helped, we protected, we maintained, and somewhere in the Pentagon, the White House, and dozens of federal agencies, Sentinel and its siblings stood watch, silent guardians in a digital age, protecting the nation one line of code at a time. Amanda wanted transformation. She got it. Just not the kind she'd expected. Sometimes the most profound transformations aren't about disruption or innovation. Sometimes they're about recognizing what already works and protecting it from those who would carelessly tear it down. I pulled up the latest threat analysis and returned to work. There would always be new challenges, new attacks, new executives who thought they knew better. But now there was also Sentry Corps, and we would be ready. The real revenge wasn't in destroying Apex or humiliating Amanda. It was in building something better, something that would endure long after the corporate drama was forgotten. It was in proving that competence matters more than charisma, that understanding trumps disruption, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to let someone break what you've built. My computer chimed. Another authentication request from Sentinel. I approved it with a smile. We were still here, still watching, still protecting, and that was the greatest revenge of all.